You don't have to change who you are. No one's asking you to erase your story, your quirks, your scars, or your truth. What I'm saying, is this. Strive to be the best version of who you already are. There's power in your authenticity. There's greatness in your potential. You've already got the raw materials. Now shape them, polish them, build on them. Not to become someone else, but to become the strongest, wisest, kindest version of you. So show up. Every day. Not as a copy of someone else, but as you, leveling up. Because the world doesn't need another clone. It needs you evolved. Be that. Become that. Stay true. And I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Yeah, hi, I'm just catching up with some bullshit. I'm just catching up with the bullshit. Hello. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea. I will be back with you momentarily.
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Hello. Lovely poem, Rudyard Kipling. So I'm just catching up on the bullshit. What's the bullshit? What's the bullshit? Well, I think one of the bullshit out there is the Katy Perry. I mean, come on. It's just ultimately that door opened, didn't it? That door opened. That's all I can say on the subject, really. Let's just see if we can get that up on the screen. I mean, that's the biggest bullshit going on at the moment, isn't it? I mean, come on. I mean, look at this. That door opened, you know, and that was meant to, and then he pretends to open it with a wrench. I mean, what the hell's going on here? Something Something ain't right, is it, eh? I mean, there we look. There's the door opening. You know, and this was meant to have been in space, kind of like 10 minutes beforehand. That door opened. Oh, man. They're getting right stick, aren't they? They're getting right stick. That door opened for a fact. So that's some of the bullshit going down at the moment. Funny, funny, funny. I really hope it all comes out. I mean, I was watching something today, you know, questioning the moon landings. And to be fair, the biggest piece of evidence that indicates the moon landing was fake was that we haven't been back. Oh, I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I definitely feel as if we're living in a matrix in which the truth is being hidden from us. And I mean, I don't know about you, but that's just not right. It's just not right. And we seem to be conditioned to that right from day one, you know, about how Santa Claus brings you the presents and he goes around the world and all in one night. And, you know, it's like we're conditioned to believe complete and utter bullshit. And I mean, that's one of the reasons I got involved with this so-called truth movement. Bullshit truth. There's no truth anywhere around here, that's for sure. Someone said the other day that there's truth on YouTube. Bullshit is there truth on YouTube. There's truth nowhere. Truth is a figment of your imagination. It's got jack shit to do jack shit about jack shit. Truth is nowhere to be seen. It's just a willful notion. Truth is like utopia. You know, we're never going to get utopia. Just like we're never going to get truth. You know what I mean? Complete and utter joke. And again, I mean, I'm talking for myself here. I don't like the fact that we're living in a matrix in which the truth is being deprived. I mean, I'm sure the people who are hiding the truth from us have got a very good reason to do so. That's fine. And knowing me, knowing my personality, I expect if I was in their position also, I would toe the line. I wouldn't let the masses know the truth if I knew the truth, because I'd be taking advantage of it. I'd be going for lunch on the far side of the moon. I'll be taking my holidays on the moons of Jupiter. You know, I won't be hanging around planet Earth. I'll be fucking around the local solar system. You know, and you'd want to keep that exclusive, wouldn't you? I mean, that's why the truth is being denied us, because they want to keep everything exclusive. And I understand that. I get it. But still, it ain't nice when you're at the receiving end. And you and I are at the receiving end. You know, make no bones about it. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's an eggy yolk. It's a joke. It's an egg yolk. It really is an eggy yolk. But what can you do? You know, until there's a revolution and it all kicks off, you know, we're stuck doing fuck all, you know, quite frankly. And sometimes in times like this, all you can turn to is Shakespeare.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou oust, nor shall death brag thou wanderst in a shade, when in eternal lines the time thou growst. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
Yeah, I do enjoy a bit of William Shakespeare. I hope you've been enjoying. I know I'm doing all my lives. Well, not my lives. I'm doing my videos every 3 hours now. So you'll be getting a live piece of content, a brand new piece of content every 3 hours. You know, it can't be bad, is it? Eh? Now that can't be bad. Fuck me, that's loud, isn't it? That's bloody loud. Oh, we have the first comment. We have the first comment from David Southwell. Thank you ever so much, David Southwell. Matt, I've written best. Oh yeah, David. Thank you, David. I know who you are, David. David says, Matt, I've written best-selling books on conspiracies. Books translated into 12 languages. But I got out of that because there's just as much bullshit in the truth movement. Certainly there is, isn't there? I mean, and thank you ever so much for commenting. It's really great to have someone of your caliber on my show. And I really am grateful for you, you know, being the first, being the bravest of the brave to come in and say hi. But yeah, I mean, David brings up an absolute salient point. There's just as much bullshit in the truth movement as there is anywhere else. In fact, my mother's mantra was there is no truth, only facts and lies. And, you know, it took me a long time to get my head around that, but it's finally made sense to me. You know, everyone has got truth. Everyone speaks their truth, but whether that's factual is another matter altogether. And in the same way, everyone lies, be it intentionally or not. So, echoing what my mother's sentiments were, there is no truth, because truth is subjective. But what there is there's facts and there's lies. And ultimately, we are being fed a crap load of lies. And I can just hope, against all hope, that I live to see a time in which the facts are revealed and the lies exposed. And I actually do believe we are heading in that right direction. Because the more people like you and I, like David, shout out and say we don't believe, the closer we're going to come to complete and a genuine disclosure. Over to David again, who says, you have to standards of proof, integrity. You cannot complain about being misled by the establishment if someone just repeats conspiracy bullshit without primary research. There you go. You have to have standards of proof. Integrity. You can't complain about being misled by the establishment if someone just repeats conspiracy bullshit without primary research. So that's what we need around here, primary research. We need people to come to their own conclusions based on their own research. And that doesn't involve Googling. I mean, and I'm speaking for myself here, I believe what I believe because of the personal experiences in my life. I believe that police corruption is epidemic because I've been the victim of police corruption. I believe that the great and good lie to our faces because I've seen the great and good lie to our faces. And it's becoming more and more evident every day. But yes, thanks for the advice, David. You have to have standards of proof, integrity. You cannot complain about being misled by the establishment if someone just repeats conspiracy bullshit without primary research. Thank you ever so much. Big shout out to Katie. Hello, Katie. Good to have you in the house. Hope everyone's well. Emily left a message. Cooey, I think she said. And Emily said she doesn't keep up with the bullshit. But listen, I love a bit of bullshit. Because the more bullshit, it's like the more data, isn't it? It's the more data. The more data you get, the more you can determine what's bullshit or not. You know? And in every single load of data, you get the nuggets of gold. They know, yes. Damn right. It is a little bit of fun. No, I won't change it. I was going to play a little anyway, I've been loving doing my animations. I was going to play a little quote from a film to see if you could name the film. Listen. Of course you are. Make it easy. I like things easy in life, you know. So, the bullshit going around. Poor Kate Angela, Power Disney. You know, what talk about fucking censorship bullshit. We all know what the relationship between the convicted kidnappers in the Wilfred Wong case is to the victim. But apparently there's a D notice on it. And so Angela Power Disney is finding out the hard way that you cannot report on the news because you're going to get pulled in and no doubt locked up for contempt of court. And contempt of what kind of court? Over to David, who says, facts matter, lies matter. There's objective, provable fact. People need to be honest enough not to claim opinion as fact. Absolutely. As we all know, opinion isn't admissible in court. The law isn't interested in your opinion. The law isn't interested in your truth. The only thing, as echoing what David says, the only thing the law's interested are the facts and the lies. People need to be honest enough to not claim opinion as fact. And people should be able to know the difference. AP is one of the biggest bullshitters around, Matt. There's no D notice on it. Yes, I've noticed that. I was looking for D notices and there was none. You've been in the military, you know, reporting restriction from the D court and nothing to do with notices, with D notices. So where does this D notice come from then? If, you know, D notice in another name is restrictions, what specifically about the case was being restricted? In a way, it was a D notice in another name. Facts matter. She broke UK court reporting restrictions. Right, so she broke UK court reporting restrictions. Did she? Even though the news was already in the public domain? Either way, I don't think that's conclusive to an open society in which we should be allowed to, you know, to discuss what's in the public domain. The impression I got from that, the only reason people were getting into trouble was because they were identifying the relationship between certain individuals convicted of kidnapping and the victim. Nothing to do with national security, says David. But either way, Angela Power Disney is now in a world of shit. The news was in the public domain because other people broke the restrictions. The news was in the public domain because it was reported in the national press. That's how I saw it. And of course, we had that terrible news of Robert Frith, I think his name is, Robert, committing suicide within a week of going in. And then we had, remember the speculation of Wilfred Wong being castrated? Identifying the relationship identifies the child. There you go, says David. And David's an expert on all this because he's written books on the matter. 12 books. Best-selling, I hasten to add. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I wonder whether David has got a YouTube channel. But then again, reading that comment, I get the impression David wouldn't waste his time by indulging in the truth movement. I mean, the first person I remember getting into trouble over the Wilfred Wong was Jeanette Archer. I mean, talking about opinions, everyone's got an opinion. And AP is one of the biggest bullshitters around, Matt. Yeah. Can be argued I'm one of the biggest bullshitters around as well. I've spent 30 years court reporting. You don't fuck with the court unless you want to go to prison for contempt. Well, Tommy Robinson knows that full well, don't you? And that's a lesson to all of us. You don't fuck with the courts. You don't fuck with the judicial system. Because they're the big boys, aren't they? They're the ones who can say, you are going down, and you're going down no matter what you yourself think. No, I don't like the matrix we're living in. I think it's far too oppressive. You know, I'm not feeling. It's not gelling with me, man. It's not synchronizing with me. You know, the frequency isn't doing it much for me. I don't like it. I don't like this time and age we're living in. I don't like it one little bit. Being told what we can say, what we can do, being under the cosh, being under the threat. If you don't turn up here at this time, you're going to be in trouble. Perverting the course of justice, witness intimidation, contempt of court, always custodial. There you go, warns David. What he means is, fuck around with the court and you will get locked up. And what's happening with Angela now is you know, I don't know what judicial history is, but is this the first time someone outside of British judicial jurisdiction is being pulled in? You know, what consequences will this have? I think this is quite a big subject, because it can be argued what's decided with the Angela Power Disney case will affect journalists from across the world. You know, there could be a scenario in which a journalist in Argentina reports on something in the UK, And depending on the arrangements with the Argentinian government, that journalist from Argentina could get pulled over to the UK and, you know, thrown into prison for all kinds of reasons, amongst which would be perverting the course of justice, witness intimidation, and contempt of court. We do live in dangerous times. We live in a police state, which, you know, you've heard me say before. But thank you ever so much for David for contributing. What else is in the news? Tommy Robinson has been refused his appeal. So he's going to be stuck in solitary confinement until July. She's a British citizen. She's a British citizen, isn't she? I don't know. She obviously, I would have thought, I don't know actually. I would have thought she would have had 2 passports. She's a British citizen, isn't she? If I commit treason in Russia, being in a foreign territory, it's not a defence against breaking British law. Good point. Thank you for raising it. So yeah, I mean, David raises a very good point. If she's a British citizen, compared to my example of a journalist in Argentina, maybe it'll be different. If the journalist in Argentina is Argentinian, then that's a different kettle of fish. David makes the point that Angela Power Disney is a British citizen and uses the example of if you commit treason in Russia, being in a foreign territory is not a defence against breaking British law. Yes, quite right. She's bullshitting. It's a grift to dress up her petty crime as something more important than it is. Well, you know, if that's the case, surely Andrew Devine will get pulled in as well, because from what I remember, they were discussing what was in the public domain. Over to David. He says if she only had an Irish passport, that wouldn't be an issue, right? So yeah, I mean, this is very insightful. It helps having 30 years court reporting experience. So David is pointing out the fact that she's a British citizen. Now, if she was Irish and only held an Irish passport, this would be a different kettle of fish. Now, you know, that makes sense. David also accuses Angela Power Disney of bullshitting. It's a grift to dress up her petty crime as something more important than it is. Petty crime. I mean, back in the day, petty crime would have had your hand chopped off and you would have been sent to Australia. Who gets prosecuted can be quite arbitrary. As you well know, Matt, yes. Don't I well know? I know all about it. And it's not nice. Quite frankly. It's not nice. It's not nice being at the receiving end. No D notice involved. That is interesting because I tried to check up on a D notice and there has been no D notice. Was that a lie or was that all she... Restrictions, D notice, 2 are the same things. I mean, how was the restriction put out? So I suppose at some point a notice would have been sent to all press agencies saying there is a restriction on reporting on this case by court order. And of course, in the same way, opinion isn't a defense in court, ignorance is also not a defense. So you won't be able to say, oh, I didn't know about that. A breach of court imposed reporting notice turned into a narrative of D notices is bullshit, says David. I personally think whether you call it a D notice or restrictions, I totally get what you're saying. A D notice is not a restriction, and a restriction is not a D notice. How can them two things get muddled up? To be fair, and we're concentrating on the truth and facts and lies. It isn't factually correct to say a D notice had been applied. David calls it a lie. I mean, I can go along with that, whether it's intentionally or not. The D notice system was introduced in 1912 and ran as a voluntary system by a joint committee headed by an assistant secretary of the War Office. So, yeah, of course, that would have been coming in before the First World War. Very interesting. Thanks for the contribution. So, Angela Power Disney is being accused of bullshitting, of grifting, and of lying about it being a D notice when in fact it was a restriction. Okay, there you go. D notices are only about national security. So the restriction, as David alludes to, the restriction was about the relationship between the child and the accused, because children are protected by the courts. Facts matter, says David. She broke UK court reporting restrictions. And that restriction was in relation to the child in the case. Every court in the land can impose restrictions on reporting on top of the legal restrictions on identifying children, says David. Yes, there you go. And sometimes you see that in the listings. If ever you've been in a courthouse, you see the listings all up on a notice board. And sometimes on that listings, you'll see reporting restrictions applies. Over to David, it says, if you or I were in court, we could ask our barristers to apply for restrictions to not make some elements of the case revealed. Very interesting, yes. Because, of course, what's said in court is in the public domain. Because more often than not, every court has a public gallery. And sat in that public gallery can be the press or members of the public. It's unlikely we'll get the restrictions we wanted, but we can ask. And of course, it'll all depends on how good the reason behind it. If you can put up a good enough reason why you want certain elements of the case not disclosed, the wise men and women acting as judges will take that into consideration. So we've got Angela Power Disney facing a Royal Courts of Justice case. David says no, Matt. If there's reporting restrictions, I and the public are bound by the restrictions. Yes, bound. It's only public in the courtroom. There you go. We've got Tommy Robinson, appeal denied. And we've got the Katy Perry trip to the moon being ridiculed as fake. David says you can't go outside and report it if the judge tells you there are restrictions. Of course, I know that, yeah. But if there's no restrictions imposed, you can report what you hear in court. And you'll see whether there's restrictions because it'll be on the list. But of course, if there's no restrictions, you're free to report on what happened within that court. It's a legal minefield. That's what it is, and I think that's what Angela Power Disney is landed on. She's landed on a landmine in a field of legal landmines, if I'm making sense. So we'll see what happens with Angela. What else has been in the news? Not really much, is there? Oh, we got the prosecutor in America who went after Donald Trump. She herself has been put forward for prosecutions. Over to David, who says restrictions were imposed in the one case. She broke them. That's why she's in a world of shit, not some mystical D-notice. Well, you know, D-notice or restrictions. Either way, she's obviously said something about the case which the powers that be didn't want discussed. Because ultimately, the case was in the papers. But what was different, I believe, the Angela Power Disney, was that the family contacted Angela. And maybe that's where it crossed the mark. David said people need to educate themselves before mouthing off on court matters. Well, look at that. David's getting real and serious. People need to educate themselves before mouthing off on court matters, says David. There you go. It could be argued that everyone needs to educate themselves before mouthing off. I would want all children mentioned in court to be protected. Of course you do. And who else? You know, everybody would. Everybody would. Evidently, David feels very strongly about it. Matt, the family telling you something doesn't mean you can repeat it. There you go. There you go, says David. There you go. Just because someone tells you something doesn't mean you can go around repeating it. Let this be a lesson to everyone. Don't mouth off. Don't mouth off. Remain quiet. Let the judicial system take care of it. Don't rock the boat. Don't push the boundaries. Don't go around thinking that you know better. Because the judges, the learned gentlemen and ladies, they know best. There's a threshold to reach the bar for a reason. And that threshold is high, because the law is not a joking matter. The law is not a laughing matter. The law is very serious. And only the best of the best get over that bar. So there you go. In fact, the family did approach me to publicize their side of the story, and I politely declined. Over to David, who says, there are people in this corner of YouTube who have no regrets. There are people in this corner of YouTube who have no regard for the law. It's not a good look to bemoan coming unstuck when you haven't been clever enough to report within the confines of the law. Yes. Clever enough. That's the important pro words there. You've got to be clever if you want to play with the big boys. Very wise, Matt. That decline was deeply wise. Well, yes. I mean, me personally, anything to do with satanic ritual abuse, I run a mile. You know, you're playing with fire when you get involved with anything to do with the devil. Okay? Don't get involved. That's my advice. Steer clear of controversy. Well, on that note, coming up to 9 o'clock, I think I will say good night. Doesn't look like Chris Eubank is going to Chris Eubank Sr. Doesn't look like Chris Eubank Sr. is going to be in his son's corner, which is a bit of a shame. Let's see what David has to say. 30 years of court reporting, only once threatened with contempt. I'm in court next week for the Lawrence Fox case. I've had to do a refresher course to make sure my reporting doesn't breach. Very good, yes. You've got to take it seriously. You've got to take it seriously. And of course, Lawrence Fox is in court for upskirting. One of the first to be prosecuted under the new hate laws that have come in, if I'm correct. Yes, thanks ever so much, Katie. Good night. Now you sleep well. Thank you. What's the story in Eubank? Do you have any insight? No, I haven't any insight, except that Chris Eubank Sr. is still predicting the fight won't go ahead. And he's citing what happened to Michael Watson as an example of having to lose weight to fight below your average weight as such. So his son, Chris Eubank Jr., is having to lose weight to fight Conor Ben. So, I mean, as any loving man and as any loving father would do, Chris Eubank Sr. is concerned for the safety of his son, concerned, and it's life or death, especially considering that his other son, Sebastian, is dead. So, no, I haven't got any insight into Chris Eubank. But yeah, so Lawrence, he's a victim of the new hate laws come in, accused of publishing a picture, upskirting picture of a certain woman whose name I'm not familiar with. Of course, I expect Lawrence Fox's excuse would be, well, it was already in the public domain. I just shared it. But that's not good enough, is it? Thank you, Matt. That was insightful. Thank you, David, for your contribution tonight. Very insightful. I'm going to say goodnight. Come up to 9 o'clock. And no smoke without fire.
But none of them walk in the shoes of my youth. Whispers in shadows, tales growing higher. A spark in their minds, but no sign of fire. They speak like a Juke, drunk on the sound of rumors and rage, like they're spinning it around. Being accused of a litany of crimes is no laughing matter. It cuts and it binds. They say there's no smoke without fire, but sometimes the smoke's just a liar. They built their stories from paper and thread, turn living men into monsters instead. Justice is twisted and truth's on the line, and innocence drowns in the weight of slime. The trial by gossip, by clickbait chain, and nobody stops to question the game. Being accused of a litany of crimes is no laughing matter. It cuts and it binds. They say there's no smoke without fire, but sometimes the smoke's just a liar. They built off the flames they lit with their tongues, felt the scorch of a war that had already begun. But fire don't lie, and I'm still standing tall. You can blow all the smoke you want, I won't fall. Being accused of a litany of crimes is no laughing matter. It's not just a line. They say there's no smoke without fire, but sometimes the smoke's just a liar. Yeah, sometimes the smoke's just a liar.
Over to David, who says Fox is being done because his texts around the picture showed he wanted to humiliate her. There you go. I'll stick around for another 10 minutes, bring it up to an hour. I mean, ultimately, it's, and I don't want to prejudice any case or predict my. Well, I'm certainly not going to prejudice any case. But my prediction is that he'll be found guilty. That's my prediction on the Lawrence Fox case. I mean, but then again with Russell Brand. Of course, Russell Brand will be able to afford the best lawyer, the best legal representation money can buy. But that's certainly going to be a media circus, his trial. A lot of people are finding themselves in a world of shite, quite frankly. I mean, that can be argued for the whole world. The whole world is finding itself in a world of shite. Because, you know, it can be argued that the world is full of shite at the moment. And hence the name of tonight's live, you know, keeping up with the bullshit. It's all bullshit. I'm just keeping up with it. So thanks ever so much for David for contributing. Very good of you to come in. Very good. Very good. We've got another 10 minutes to go. I like to wrap it up. I like to wrap it up in a bow, so to say. Yes, I just, while I was listening to that song, I just quickly looked at my YouTube subscription, and there was Chris Eubank, apparently in tears. Chris Eubank is in tears because he's saying his son isn't listening to him. But then Chris Eubank Jr. is saying, listen, I'm a man. I'm a man. I can make my own decisions. And, you know, you should be backing me, Dad. That's what he's saying. And then we've got Chris Eubank Sr. saying, well, I'm not going to back you. You're not going to see me in your corner. So that fight is the bell will be rang on the 26th of April. You do remember the last fight was cancelled due to Conor Benn failing a drugs test. Chris Eubank implied it was divine intervention. Chris Eubank Sr. is worried that something terrible would happen to his son, and is like relying on divine intervention to strike again. Who knows? For a moment there, a couple of days ago, there was a story, the headlines were being banded about that Conor Benn had failed another drugs test, but that didn't seem to come to nothing. Sorry, that didn't seem to come to anything. So fake news swirling around there. But as a boxing fan and someone who grew up through that feud, through that rivalry between Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. In fact, I'd be happy if the fight doesn't go ahead, because I have such respect and admiration for Chris Eubank Sr. And Chris Eubank Sr. makes a really good argument. You know, boxers from different weight divisions shouldn't be fighting each other in which their lives are on the line. And, you know, I feel Chris Eubank Sr. is making a very good argument for that fight not to go ahead. And out of respect and admiration for Chris Eubank Sr., and as a big boxing fan, I'd be more than happy to not see that fight ever go ahead. Because ultimately it was between the dads, isn't it? Over to David, who says, it's nice to hear you talking on boxing, Matt. Very good. Thank you ever so much. I mean, I can talk on lots of subjects, and I do want to talk on lots of subjects. And there's lots of subjects out there. And perhaps it would be good for me to come on and talk about a whole range of subjects. And boxing is one subject I do enjoy. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I was going to sign off early, because I saw there had been another video dropped featuring Chris Eubank Sr. I mean, one of my favourite things to watch on YouTube now is Call Chris Eubank. I think it's brilliant. I've met Chris Eubank Senior on numerous occasions, and I'm just a big fan. I cannot get enough. I cannot get enough of Chris Eubank Senior. I admire him tremendously. You know, he's a childhood hero. But anyway, we're coming up to an hour. Again, another big thank you to David Southwell, for contributing to tonight's chat. He certainly put us straight on the Angela Power Disney. I mean, you know, going on what David is saying, she's only got herself to blame. David says, I was a witness to CE trying to arrest Tony Blair. Yes. So, yeah, I remember that. I was a witness to Chris Eubank trying to arrest Tony Blair. Of course, because he calls himself a deputy now, doesn't he? He goes around with the sheriff's badge. Reminds me of John Manoa. And what I like about Chris Eubank is how he talks about the spirit. He goes, it wasn't me who done all these great achievements in life. It was the spirit. And, you know, that really, it shows how modest the man is. But yeah, what I love about Chris Eubank Sr. is he's genuine. And the genuineness of the man really shines through. Because here's a man, in my opinion, who isn't afraid to express himself, to show his emotions. And I find that very endearing. And yes, I'm copying the sentiments of David. I too believe he is a very brave man. Armed police with submachine guns pointing at him, and he still tried to do it. What a hero! I wouldn't mind one day doing a dedication to Chris Eubank and trying digging up all those clips, because he is a legend. Hey, sorry I'm late. Can we please have a link to David's channel? Can we have a link to David's channel? Maybe. Let's have a look. Well, he hasn't actually got a channel. So, well, he's a cult author. At the moment, he's got 1 subscriber. And he joined on the 30th of June, 2010. So 15 years. Why not try to get an interview? Hey, listen. There's not a hope in hell of me getting an interview with Chris Eubank. But nice thinking anyway. Nice thinking. I like your thinking. Yes. Brighton eccentrics talking boxing and Brighton. Yes, it would be amazing. I'd love that. But listen, we should all know our limitations. Okay. And while it would be absolutely amazing to be in conversation with Chris Eubank Sr., even I know some things in life are highly unlikely. And it would be highly unlikely that Chris Eubank would appear on MattTaylorTV. David says, I've got 35,000 on Twitter, 17,000 on Blue Sky. Don't really care for YouTube. Yes, there you go. And of course, I know David from Twitter. I haven't seen David on Blue Sky yet, but 17,000, that's a lot. Crikey. I think I've only got 8. But yeah, thank you ever so much, David, for coming in. David says, you just need the right angle to approach him on. You might get only 10 minutes, but there are things he doesn't get asked about and he loves to talk on. Yes, yes. No, I mean, I've actually, what am I going to say? He knows me. Chris Eubank knows me. And we've had private conversations. But let's just put it that way, okay? We've had private conversations. And we have a relationship of sorts, which I myself wouldn't want to be known for anyone else, if you know what I mean. I've got a relationship with Chris Eubank, which I treasure, and which I wish to keep private, and which I would never take advantage of, and nor would I want the wider audience privy to. So I don't need to talk to Chris Eubank Senior on YouTube. I get to talk to him through other avenues. Over to It's Only YouTube. I just read David's Wikipedia. Fascinating. Yes indeed. I mean, as David reminds us, David has written best-selling books on conspiracies, books translated into 12 languages, 30 years experience reporting in the courts. No one really talks to him on his love for Brighton. Doesn't have to be YouTube. You have Substack now, proper writing, old-fashioned interview. Yes, of course. Well, anyway, David, I hope you have good time at covering Lawrence Fox case. David will be at the Lawrence Fox case. Build up your audience a bit further and people will be more open. Listen, what I'm planning to do is I've got my own legal woes to get past. And once I feel comfortable, once, you know, certain issues are resolved, then I will be open to new pastures. But in fact, there's every possibility, and I think it's more likely that I concentrate more on my writing. That's why you're not seeing me as much, because I'm doing much more writing. I was a writer at the core. Would David consider being a panelist on your show, Matt? It would be very interesting. Yes, it would be. Yes, it would be. We're open to all suggestions. You know, we're open to all suggestions. I'm not closed to anything, but what I am open to is concentrating more on my writing. And I was thinking today, the reason why I like going live and doing my little videos is because of that instant satisfaction, that instant, you know, get a job, get it out, work on the next one. Whereas writing, it's reminding me how patient you have to be. You have to be patient to write. And I think I've lost my patience along the line. That's why I like to do videos. I can get instant satisfaction by finishing a job, throwing it out there, and then on to the next one. Whereas it's reminded me, getting back into my writing, that it's a slow process. You know, a book consists of many, many chapters. And, you know, when you're writing, it's not AI. Put it that way. You can't rely on AI to write your novel for you. And so it's back to the old school, if you know what I mean. So would David go on panel tonight? Well, interesting question. You have to ask David that. You have to ask David. Not that I do any panels nowadays. David says, with social media, you can give people postcards from the work in progress for that instant gratification. Yes, and I did think of that, actually. I did think of doing that. But I've made the decision to wrap it all up in a bow and only give it out at Christmas. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's lots of avenues I can go down. There's more than one way to skin a cat. You know, that old cliche. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of options. There's lots of options. But I've got my own dramas in life to deal with. Everyone's got their drama. Oh, a bit of update on Matty Boo Boo. Matty Boo Boo was set to meet the girl of his dreams, but she had a water infection. Sadly, that didn't happen. But let's hope Matty Boo Boo gets to meet his woman of his dreams. Over to our Zany YouTube. He says, Matt, do you want to come on a panel tonight and talk to Matt? It would be great. There you go. I'm actually just wrapping it up, so has to be another time. David says, a great paragraph written that you share is a great way to get interest ahead of the finished book, and it will give you that hit. Hey, listen. I don't need hits anymore. I don't need hits, but I know what you mean. I'm more than happy. I'm coming up into the twilight years of my life, middle-aged. I'm very happy with my girlfriend, with my children, and with my community. So I'm kept more than happy. I'm kept busy. I was very I helped out my magical imaginary girlfriend putting up her fences over the weekend. We work as a good team. So my hits, I don't need my hits anymore. I don't need my hits. Yes, thank you. I think you should write the 525 AD. Yes, that's something I'm actually all my work is geared around that subject. Have you read any of David's books? No, I haven't yet. No. Oh, we've got a 2000 AD reference here. No Tharg, but a lot of Arthur. Yes. No, I haven't read any of David's books yet, but I'll be open to it. There is one book I'm reading at the moment, which I'm finding. Okay, it's a bit of a lie. I haven't actually started reading it yet, but it's the Urantia book. Have anyone heard of the Urantia book? It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Urantia is actually another name for Earth. So that's the book I'm got to read, and of course, I'm halfway through the plot. Nadine Dorries. None of us can be Shakespeare, says David. But we can tell our stories. Yes, indeed. And talking about Shakespeare, let's play a Shakespeare, because I do love a bit of Shakespeare.
Over hill, over dale, furrow bush, furrow briar, over park, over pale, furrow flood, furrow fire. I do wander everywhere, swifter than the moon's sphere, and I serve the fairy queen to dew her orbs upon the green. The cowslips toll her pensioners be, in their gold coat spots you see. Those be rubies, fairy favors, in those freckles live their savors. I must go seek some dewdrops here, and hang a pearl in every cowslip's ear. cowslips tall her pensioners be. In their gold coat spots you see. Those be rubies, fairy favors. In those freckles live their savors. I must go seek some dewdrops here, and hang a pearl in every cowslip's ear.
Okay, listen, thanks ever so much, everyone. It's been lovely. Thank you ever so much, David. Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Justin. I shall catch you all again soon. God bless. And remember...
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou oust, nor shall death brag thou wanderst in a shade, when in eternal lines the time thou growst. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long